Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. You know, the Americans have a little saying that goes like this. If it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, if it blah 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 like a duck, then it is a duck. So here we have a little issue. Supposedly the European Union, Europe, put it this way, imposed sanctions on Russia because Russia is a bad country with bad people and with criminal leaders. Therefore, they needed to do that because they attacked unprovoked another beautiful country, democratic and independent and just and all that, which is Ukraine. That most did not even want to have anything to do with it before this. But hey, put that to the side, what's going on? Well, these sanctions are supposed to hurt Russia and obviously they should backfire and hurt in the European countries as well. But we find out that actually business between Russia and Europe increased 1.3 times. All right, so while these guys are telling us that they provide Ukraine with weapons and support and all this and money and all that, and sanction Russia, they make money somehow. They still exchange goods and their how do you call it? The supplies from Russia going to the European Union increased, not decreased. What's going on here? Is this a little racket here? This article comes from Sputnik. It's from today, 15th of December 2022. And this is what that criminal Putin says. Supplies from Russia to EU up 1.5 times in 9 months. Total exports up by 42%. How is this possible? Wasn't it supposed to go down instead of going up if you impose sanctions on a country? Okay, well, whatever. Moscow. Despite sanctions against Moscow, deliveries of basic goods from Russia to the EU grew by 1.5 times over 9 months, while total exports increased by 42%, Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Thursday, and I'm quoting, "An interesting observation. Despite the sanctions, over the 9 months of this year, the supply of basic goods from Russia to the EU countries increased by 1.5 times. The total Russian exports increased by 42%, and the trade surplus is in our favor by 2.3 times to $138 billion. Putin said at a meeting of a Presidential Council for Strategic Development and National Projects. I know what you might say. He's a liar. He's lying. He might be. Do you have the evidence to, contradict this, dispute this? I don't, and I'm not going to even look for it. Because this guy, if he says that, and he's a criminal, I think he really means that. Now, bring the opposite evidence and I will look over it. I'm open, but I don't think he would make such a statement so bluntly lying. I never heard him like that, but anyway, it doesn't mean that it might not change one time, or at least start. And here it is, I think. Oh, you think I believe Putin? Well, there's some people who, regardless if they're criminals or not, they have a high rating of consistency. Excuse me. And in this case, Putin, good or bad, he has a consistency in whenever he says something. And the Russians in general, if they say they're going to bomb you, they're going to bomb you. If they say they're going to give you $1, they're going to give you $1. Good or bad. So far, Putin, I don't know, had a kind of, high rating. At the same time, the president noted that Russia would increase LNG supplies by 70 billion cubic meters until the end of the decade. And I'm quoting, new LNG projects, so liquefied natural gas projects in Yamal, Russia's Yamalo-Nenets autonomous region, will allow to increase the production of liquefied natural gas by 70 billion cubic meters by 2030, which will also help expand the geography of exports. End quote. Putin said at the Presidential Council for Strategic Development and National Project. projects. The sharp rise in Russian exports into Europe comes despite the fact that the EU joined sanctions against Moscow earlier this year following the launch of the Russian special military operation in Ukraine. By October, the EU had rolled out 8 packages of sanctions against Moscow and joined the G7 price cap on Russian oil. The policies so far have exacerbated global energy issues, resulting in fuel price growth and record inflation across Europe. Many EU countries have had to resort to contingency measures, which reports suggest that the high price of American LNG gas and US protectionist policies have raised major concerns about the decline of European industry, and they will take your factories. Why? Because they can. That's what a friend of mine used to say. Hey, why did you buy that Lamborghini? Because I can. Okay, wait. And so that's exactly what people say. Hey, you can afford doing that? When you looked at rich people, like, oh my God, you did that. What did you do? Why would you do that when other people are starving or something? Because I can. And if I didn't steal the money, and you don't tell me how I spend my money. It was another guy. Well, you have so much money. Why don't you share it with us? Okay, I'll share with you. Yeah, I have money, but not to share it with you. That was his answer. Anyway, in this case, you tell me how is that possible? I think it's a little, I don't want to say it's an understanding like they spoke over the phone, the members of the European Commission with Putin and his buddies. But obviously, something is not working the way they want it to work, they being the so-called collective West. Because you're supposed to hurt Russia, not to increase, how to put it, trade with them, right? But again, this is what the evil guy says. So he might be lying, like none of the guys on the other side. But it's okay. I don't have, as I said, I didn't even look, to be honest with you, into the counter arguments. Because then if they, let's say the European Union says, no, that's not true, and actually decreased, I don't know, 5 times. Why should I believe those and not this guy? Why, based on what evidence, those guys would have more credibility than this so-called criminal? Just because he's a criminal, he cannot tell the truth? Like the other ones are the angels. That's the whole premises of all this. We're good, you're bad. Everything you do must be done, in a name of evil. Remember, all these things that they accuse the Russians doing, like, doing this to children, doing this to women, terrorizing this, blowing it up, this, all these things have been done before by the US mass media, by the Western mass media. But when they are kind of, then no, nothing, zero. You find out after some years, hey, that massacre over there, that thing over there, and so on. But we might never find out in certain circumstances. But if we would know what's going on in certain kind of circles over there, I think we would take our how do you call it, pitchforks and how do you call those fires, and go and knock at their doors and say, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. It's I know that I don't know if I should say this, but in one of my capacities, I was involved in some ability to know how some public funds are distributed to certain kind of groups from other kind of groups. And if that would be put on the TV, I don't know, once a day, you would have a mess with the government and with certain kind of institutions. The problem is the mass media knows the bosses, and they will not promote such a robbery, a legal robbery, and they don't know it. I mean, if you would know that, let's say, a certain kind of family receives a, I don't know, a laptop, $1,200 laptop or $3,000 or whatever from the taxpayers because the family has some issues, but your children, you have to provide for your children, then I don't think you would think that that's fair. Why? Because someone else decided that your taxes will be used that way. You didn't agree with that. So anyway, that's the same here. You say, hey, these are sanctions here. What's going on? Well, I think it's, no, I know it's much more than these guys. Yeah, we're sanctioning, but on the other hand, guys, we can't sanction that or that. Listen, like Biden. The United States did not place sanctions and did not tell the Europeans to place sanctions on the nuclear energy that comes from Russia. You know, remember? They didn't do it. Why is that? Because Americans are using, I don't know, 18% from Russia and 10% from Russia on, how do you call it, unprocessed material and processed material. It was about 10%. I don't know, it was uranium or something. Uranium, I think it was. And the processed was 18% from Russia and the unprocessed was 10%. That somehow was not sanctioned. Yeah, okay. And remember, France is like, I can't remember how much, I think almost 100% is with nuclear energy. It gets its energy from nuclear means. So, yeah, I don't know. But Americans will just steamroll over these guys with no problem. Ruthless. They're not friends, they're not allies. They tell us that, but, you know, as I always say, actions speak louder than words. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Business as usual. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.